Well, well, well. September 26th was one heck of a Friday when it came to college football. People probably thought that the only game that was really going to matter when it came to anything dealing with the college football playoff was the TCU Arizona State game. Now, they may have been thinking, oh, well, Arizona State got beat by Mississippi State, so how good can they be? Nobody thought that there was really going to be that big of a deal. Yeah, there were some people screaming that it was possible upset of Florida State going to Virginia, but honestly, how many people outside of those trying to get clicks really were thinking that Virginia could take down Florida State? And then on a third game, you had Houston, which has been touted as a power within the Big 12 going into the Pac-2 to take on 0-4 Oregon State and having to go into overtime to be able to beat the Beavers. Now, the only thing that I thought was going to be possibly looking good for the Oregon State Beavers this year was their women's gymnastics team. I'm sure there are other teams that were worth the flip, but Oregon State already being 0-4, I did not know that they would be playing Houston to the point that it would have to go into overtime and it would be that low scoring because Houston is not a bad team. But Oregon State decided, oh, we're going to play our hearts out. So we've got number 8 getting taken out by an unranked team, which, in all honesty, yeah, what Virginia's shown this season, possibly they should have been unranked. Uh, Number 24, TCU, losing in a heartbreaker by 3 points to an Arizona State team that said, okay, we may have been beaten by an SEC team that is looking a whole lot better, but we didn't expect that when we walked into Christopher Walken Stadium that we would have this. If you know, you know. But Houston, Oregon State was yet another one of those what in the world games. So we're going to cover these three games. Also, if you like college football, hit like, hit subscribe. Help me out, folks. I'm trying to get to 500 right now and then go past that. So here we go.
Hey folks, this is Paul with Redneck Sports. I want to thank you for viewing my video, and I want to give you one thought process. There was a famous coach at the University of Tennessee by the name of General Robert Neyland. He had 6 maxims, but number 2 maxim is what everybody should apply to their life. Play for and make the breaks. When one comes your way, score. That's how to live your life right there.
In a double overtime thriller, Virginia took Florida State and beat them. Now, mind you, it was at home for Virginia, Florida State being the visiting team. This is the first time in 20 years. It was 2005, the last time the Virginia Cavaliers beat a top 10 team. And guess what? That was the Criminals as well. Now, largest crowd since 2023. This was a run game because, well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. As I'm looking at this was not the best effort from anybody. Tommy Castellanos, 18 of 32 through the air, 254 yards through the air. He was averaging 7.9 yards. He threw 1 touchdown and threw 2 interceptions. Now, mind you, before this point, he had thrown 1 interception. No joke. 1 interception. Had not been sacked. But he got sacked in this game. Chandler Morris, 26 of 35. 229 through the air, 6.5 yards average. He threw 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. You got that right. Now, he had only thrown 1 interception before this game and had been only sacked once. Well, he got sacked a few times in this game. Let's talk about that for a second. He, they got two sacks, or they sacked Morse twice, and they sacked Castellanos twice. Now, rushing, Tommy Castellanos was the leading rusher. He had 14 carries, 78 yards, got a touchdown, long at 22. Uh, Gavin Sawchuk, 17 carries, 74 yards, one touchdown, long at 13. Uh, Osmani Chroma, now he had 12 carries. He had long at 23, but he didn't get a touchdown. Randy Pittman got along at 2 yards, and he got a touchdown. Only had the one carry. On Virginia's side, he had Jamari Taylor had 27 carries, 99 yards, one touchdown. Chandler Morris, on the other hand, rushed 8 times and got 3 touchdowns, long as 16. He had 37 yards of rushing. Receiving, Deuce Robinson for Florida State, he got 9 receptions, 147 yards, one touchdown, long of 47. Now, here's the thing: Squirrel White, who I happen to like, got 2 catches, only 5 yards, long 8 yards. So he had a negative. He had a negative 3 yard went on that one. Uh, you should go with the experienced guy they didn't. Randy Pittman, 2 carries, 16 yards, long of 11, one touchdown. Now on the Virginia side, Xavier Brown caught one for 15, got a touchdown. Sage Ennis got one for 6, got a touchdown. Now, mind you, they had a few others that had some decent yardage, but didn't get a touchdown. Tommy Castellanos fumbled once. Gavin Sawchuk fumbled once. On Virginia side, uh, Fisher Karnak recovered one, but that didn't fumble it. Florida State defense, they got 101 tackles. Virginia got 92 tackles. They sacked, like I said, twice. Tackles for losses, 4. 2 pass deflections. On the Virginia side, they got 92 tackles, like I said. The 2 sacks. They got 5 tackles for losses and 2 pass deflections. So it wasn't a massive thing. Now, Squirrel White did get a punt return for 23 yards. That was a good thing. Uh, no punt returns for Virginia. No kick returns for either. This was a ground and pound game. That's all this was. They had 256 yards rushing for Florida State, 211 yards for Virginia. Now, who would think that if you gain more yardage, that you would lose the game like they did? But that's how it happened. Now, Arizona State had to come back from a 17-point deficit, be able to beat TCU. No joke. This was a 17-point deficit and they had to come back. They had to rely on a kicker who had missed 2 field goals earlier in the game. Arizona State had a weak offensive line, and TCU was not able to capitalize on that. You're talking about, now, I think I probably called this game for TCU. Sam Levitt in this game. Well, let's take a look at this. Josh Hoover for TCU. No TDs. He was 20 of 32, 242 yards through the air. No TDs thrown, but 2 interceptions. Sam Levitt, on the other hand, was 27 of 39, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So you're telling me that you couldn't get through to him? Rushing, they had 207 for Arizona State. They had 10 because of what they did to Josh Hoover. They had 10 yards rushing total. Trent Battle carried the ball 9 times. one touchdown, 30 yards. So they were hurting this run game. Jeremy Payne, 6 carries, 20 yards, one touchdown. Long, 13 for Battle, 11 for Payne. Josh Hoover, 9 carries, negative 38 yards, one touchdown, long of 11. Rushing for Arizona State, Sam Levitt got a touchdown by rushing. He threw two and got one himself. Now, Raleek Brown had a long at 35. Sam Levitt had a long at 24. Raleek Brown had 134 yards in this game. No joke. Um, this is so yeah. This is one heck of a thing here. Receiving, uh, Jordan Tyson got both of them. Eight catches, two touchdowns. 57 was a long. But Jaron Hamilton didn't get one, but he still had a long of 44. On TCU side, DJ Rogers, not mind you, no receiving touchdowns, had a long of 39. So they still had a guy that could do something. Um, Sam Levitt fumbled one. They lost it. Josh Hoover fumbled one. Jamel Johnson recovered one. And Prince Dorba recovered one. Now, TCU was able to get in 4 sacks. So, yeah, this offensive line was something. But you're talking about Arizona State was able to sack Hoover 6 times. They had 82 tackles for TCU, and Arizona State had 53. So, by numbers on the defensive side, other than the sacks, you would think that it would be better for TCU. Tackles for losses, 8, but 13 for TCU, 8, and for Arizona State, 13. 5 pass deflections for both teams. So these teams were going hard at it. But it really was a situation where, if you can't connect at the right time with your receivers, or they're being held to 32, 39, 19, 21, 17, that's what they're being held to. When you've got guys that are getting in there, and you've got one guy in particular, 126 yards, when you've got rushing going on and coming back from 17th, Kenny Dillingham, had to have been liking this, because now they're 2-0 in right now. Arizona State is, yeah, they lost to Mississippi State, but they beat Baylor. Now they beat TCU. They're 2-0 in their conference. Arizona State, I mean TCU, pardon me. Uh, they beat SMU, okay, which makes the ACC look more chaotic. But they're 0-1 in their conference. They may be able to beat up on ACC, but they're losing in their own conference. And a close one, now mind you. And Arizona State had to come back, but that's one heck of a comeback right there. Now, looking at this Houston Oregon State game, Houston, okay, they smacked around Rice, who's this year. Colorado, which nobody knows what they are. And okay, they beat Stephen F. Austin, not as much as they should have, but they beat them. And I mean, they've got a poor offensive line. Connor Wegman's been sacked 6 times, but his experience is what won this game. Well, the kicker won the game, but Connor Wegman leading them the way he did. And this is an Oregon State team that didn't get as embarrassed by Oregon as much as Oklahoma State did. Texas Tech wasn't completely embarrassing. 45-14. Fresno State beat them in a shootout, and they got beat by Cal. So going into here, Malik Murphy he was doing okay, but 6 TDs, but 5 interceptions. Connor Wegman's not thrown an interception. When you're looking at this game, I mean, it really was the kicker had to pull it out because Oregon State scored the first touchdown in the first quarter, and then they scored a second touchdown in the second quarter. Going into the half, they were leading 14-10. Then they were up 17-10 by the end of the third quarter, and Houston had to score two touchdowns to get this game because Oregon State also scored a touchdown to get it into overtime. Uh, Connor Wegman was 20 of 36, 270 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. And when you're looking at, he hadn't thrown an interception before this game. That's wild. But 270 yards through the air, two touchdowns. Malik Murphy got a touchdown, no interceptions, 201 yards through the air. Rushing, Connor Wegman rushed for one. He was 6 carries, -1 yards, long as six, but he got a touchdown. None of his other running backs got one. So they couldn't ground and pound. Oregon State, on the other hand, got 189 yards to Houston's 82. Got two touchdowns, one from Cornell Hatcher and one from Jake Reachel. Uh, on the receiving side, though, Steven Johnson got one, and Tanner Kazole got one, and Tanner Kazole got along at 50. That's one heck of a run right there. It was that kind of play that got them where they needed to be. Marquise Crosby for Oregon State got one. His long was six. He only had two carries, 11 yards, two catches. Oregon State was the one that was fumbling. That was another bonus for Houston in this game. Houston was only able to get the one sack, whereas Oregon State was able to sack Wegman 3 times. So offensive lines mattered a little bit, but not as much. Matter of fact, I'm looking at this. They got 3 sacks on Wegman. They got 6 tackles for losses, whereas Houston, 1 sack on Murphy, 2 tackles for losses. That's it. They did get 5 pass deflections, so and Oregon State only got 2. So it really came down to who was wanting it more, and I think Connor Wegman was putting his experience in the big games to use since this defense was not doing their job like they needed to against Oregon State. Oregon State was rolling, but especially in the run game, this was a really good battle right here. It took it took Houston's kicker getting those 2 kicks. I mean, it really is. It came down to how hard Houston had, and I think, in all honesty, Connor Wegman having that experience, and I'm not saying anything against Malik Murphy by any stretch of the imagination. Malik Murphy put out good, or was doing good. I mean, this is a guy that played for Texas, was at Duke last year. He's got experience, but in all honesty, while yes, he had a little bit of experience at Texas, what he had at Duke was better, but in all honesty, for the big games, Connor Wegman has far bigger game experience, so I think that's what carried this through. So let's consider this for a minute. Houston is, they've taken on some okay teams, but they've got Texas Tech next. Do you honestly think, with after this performance, and while yes, they did show some good signs against Colorado, I'm not thinking they can take on Texas Tech. I really don't think they can take on Texas Tech. And I don't know who it makes look worse for Florida State. You're talking about that now, Florida State, yeah, they beat Alabama pretty convincingly, but this loss to Virginia, well, yes, it was a double overtime loss. How does that look them going into Miami? And what does that do for Alabama? because everybody's going to be talking about Alabama. Because them beating them 31-17, that's now looking kind of embarrassing. It is. It is looking really embarrassing for Alabama now. And if Florida State loses next week, yeah, it's going to not do good things. And now you've also got, okay, TCU's beat up on two ACC teams. They smacked around North Carolina in their own home. SMU was SMU was the kind of game that you would expect from two Texas teams. But still, Arizona State's only loss right now is Mississippi State, and that was a close one in Cowbell Central. And Mississippi State is starting to look interesting, and they're going to have their ultimate test, what is now today. So them beating TCU, them also beating Baylor as close as it is. Now, they're fixing to face Kyle Whittingham and Utah. They're fixing to go. They're going to Utah for that game. Then they've got to face Texas Tech, a Houston team that looks very beatable, an Iowa State team that, in all honesty, does has their moments, in Colorado and Arizona. It's TCU has still got to face Iowa State, BYU, and that's really it. Maybe Kansas State will give them a hard time. I doubt it. Cincinnati, maybe. But TCU, this is one of their better games to have to face. So Iowa State and BYU's looking like their TCU could get beat in those games. So I'm thinking that the Big 12 is very much up for grabs, like everybody said it would be. ACC is just a crapshoot. And Big 12 is just wild. But I just thought I'd do a recap of this very wild day. This has been Paul with Redneck Sports. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.
I want to thank you for watching my video. And if you like what you saw, like, subscribe, and comment. Y'all have a good day now.